Hello there. Our employee is waiting on the STEM EAD. Her current OPT EAD is expiring in a week. Should she stop working until she receives her EAD, or do you have another recommendation for us? All right, so I am starting this Q&As with Giselle with some of the questions that I received from you that I believe are very good questions of general interest. So that is the question that I've received recently, very timely, because many foreign nationals are currently on OPT EAD, so OPT Employment Authorization documents that are expiring. And many of them are also eligible to apply for an STEM OPT extension employment authorization document that allows for another 24 months of work authorization. To me, if you have heard me speak before, I believe this is a huge gift. Out of the very few gifts that USCIS has granted us. And I'm going to talk about, what happens if you have an employee on a STEM waiting for an STEM EAD. So thank you again for joining me today. This month, as every other month, I select questions that I believe are of collective interest and collective impact out of the questions that you send me. So here are the questions that I'm going to be covering in this Q&A. The first one, you kind of heard a little bit of it. Can someone who has applied for an STEM OPT EAD continue to work while waiting for their STEM OPT? For their STEM OPT, for their STEM EAD, I'm sorry. The second one, how do I verify the work authorization of an F1 student on CPT? Now, this is curriculum practical training, and it's a little bit different and maybe a little bit more complicated. So we'll talk about that. And the last one, my employee did not receive his OPT EAD or a STEM OPT EAD card. What can we do? And there is actually a little difference between not receiving the OPT EAD and not receiving the STEM OPT EAD card. So we'll talk about that also. So let me start with, can someone who has applied for a STEM OPT EAD continue to work while waiting for their STEM EAD? So as I mentioned before, the ability to apply and obtain a STEM OPT EAD is a rare, beautiful gift from USCIS to employers and to foreign nationals, qualifying foreign nationals. So I recommend that any foreign national, I am many foreign nationals that have the ability or qualify for the STEM EAD, that they do take advantage of this gift and they apply for it. The issue becomes for employers when your foreign national applies for their STEM OPT EAD, they have a very limited time before they can apply, typically 90 days before their expiration of their current OPT EAD. So by the time their OPT EAD expires, quite often they have not received their STEM EAD. So what happens then? And that's the question that was asked. Can I continue to employ this person, or do I have to take them off payroll, put them on leave until they get their STEM EAD because their current OPT EAD is expiring? rarely I have good news for you, but I do have good news for you on this one also. So the good news is that those that apply for an STEM OPT EAD, if they do it properly, they qualify for an automatic 180-day work extension. So the way that 180 days is calculated is that it's added to the expiration of their current EAD. So say their OPT EAD expires April 1st, it could be March 1st, whatever it is. You add 180 days to that date, and then you get the new expiration, which is awesome, as long as they receive their STEM EAD within that time period. So here are my recommendations to maximize this beautiful gift. One, remind your foreign workers at least 90 days before the expiration of their current OPT EAD that they need to start working on their EAD extension, or that they need to start working on their I-9 re-verification. Some of them may have other ways to have work authorization that may not be the STEM OPT, but that's typically the most common. So you should do this with all of your workers that need to be re-verified, remind them if you can 90 days ahead. So so if you did that, then, and also, so in particular for the STEM EADs, I would also tell them to tell your employees to make sure that they work with their school officials, the DSO, the designated school official for international students. So to make sure that they know what to do to apply for the STEM extension, and they're guided through this process, because it's driven by the schools. It's not driven by me. I often get asked questions about this, and I'm like, I can give you some general instructions or guidance, but really you have to go to your DSO. And then for verification of if this is a current employee that you are verifying because their OPT EAD is expiring, and they apply for an STEM EAD, what you're going to be using for re-verification or verification, at least for those 180 days, is their expired or expiring OPT EAD. And you probably had that as your initial verification document, list A document on your Form I-9. So now this is expiring. So you're going to be using that. You're going to be using the Form I-9, and that's why it's so important to go back to the school, because they're going to need to get a Form I-9 that is updated at least by the school that notes that they are authorized or that the STEM extension is recommended. And you're also going to need to see a receipt for the filing of that STEM OPT extension. So those are the 3 documents that you're going to need: the receipt for the filing of the STEM OPT extension, the I-20 endorsed by the school, recommending, supporting the STEM extension, and also the prior expiring EAD that you should have. Now, in the additional sections field of section 2 of the I-9, you're just going to write a note that says EAD extension, and then plus 180 days, and you can put the, whatever the 100 days will be, and you can sign and date. Now you have to make a note that in 180 days, you're going to need to re-verify. 2 special notes for you. Because we had a new Form I-9 that went into effect last year, most likely your initial verification for this worker was done on a Form I-9 that now has expired. So you will need to use the new Form I-9 to make the notation on the additional comment in the additional field and keep it together with the prior Form I-9. And in 180 days or before, when they get their EAD, you're going to complete supplement B with the verification documents that they're going to provide you at that time. Most likely the new employment authorization documents. So all of that stays together, okay? So a lot of just little things to keep in mind, but again, is just a beautiful opportunity. And I know for many of you, you will be using this gift. So re-listen to this Q&A. I most likely will also do a video or a webinar, so be on the lookout for that. A webinar on how to do this verifications and re-verifications, because I noticed as I was explaining it in the Q&A that this can be a little complicated just to explain it, but hopefully this will give you at least a place to start. And you can also go to USCIS or to the I-9 Central for additional guidance. I know their guidance is not as good as mine, but it can get you started anyway. The second question, how do I re-verify the work authorization of an F1 student on CPT? Now, CPT is curriculum practical training. Quite often students go under CPT to continue to expand their knowledge while also gaining some work experience. But verifying this students on CPT can be a little bit more complicated for HR or whoever is doing the verification, because for many of them, you have to re-verify them every semester. They will be getting an I-20 supporting, recommending, approving the CPT every semester. So their work authorization ends when their CPT authorization ends. So you have to keep this in mind, that this is an I-9 that you're going to be updating several times while they're on CPT. And another little thing to remember with the CPT students is that you require a combination of documents to do their verification. That combination of documents include an unexpired foreign passport, their Form I-94, which is going to say that they're in F1 status with a DS expiration date, and that Form I-20 that supports their CPT. So again, what you're going to be doing under the List A document, if this is when you're doing this verification, the unexpired foreign passport, the Form I-94 indicating F1 status, and the Form I-20 with the DSO endorsement for employment. So again, hopefully this is helpful. Now, if you're doing a re-verification, you may be using a List B or List C document. For example, it could be a state driver's license, which is a valid state driver's license, a List B document. And under the List C, you're going to be using the I-94, including the F1 non-immigrant status, with, again, a properly endorsed Form I-20. Again, a little bit more complicated, but again, really an opportunity for this F1 students to continue to work and train at the same time. So hopefully that is helpful for those two. Now, the other question that I've received is my employee did not, or the other question I selected, because I've received this now a few times. My employee did not receive his OPT EAD or a STEM OPT EAD card, lost in the mail, who knows? So what can we do? Sometimes students don't receive their EAD. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this Q&A, it is a little different whether the situation involves an OPT EAD versus a STEM OPT EAD. So if the situation involves an OPT EAD, they really cannot start working until they have their OPT EAD in hand. And I'll mention what to do applies for both of them, but how to go about it may be a little different in terms of the opportunity to work. So again, for the OPT EAD, they have to have the document in their hands. If it is a STEM OPT EAD, because I already mentioned this 180-day automatic extension, say he got lost, the EAD got lost in the mail or somehow, but USCIS is showing that the EAD was approved. So the EAD was approved by USCIS, it just didn't get to the student. You should work with your immigration attorney to consider and see if the 180-day extension could apply here while they're waiting for their STEM OPT EAD to arrive, okay? In either situation, here are some suggestions for the students, because there is not much that you're going to be able to do. There is not much that I can do, because as I mentioned before, these processes are really driven by the school and the designated official. International school advisors are the ones that need to engage and help. So here's a list, a general list of things to consider. One, for the student to submit a report to the mail delivery service. Hopefully that goes somewhere. Certainly contact USCIS and let them know what's happening. Contact their school advisor for guidance. And then last but not least, if you know the EAD doesn't get there after doing all of those things, they need to consider to file a new I-765 EAD as a replacement card. Yes, there's going to be another filing fee, unfortunately, but it is the way to go about for this process. Something else that the students should consider, and maybe that is the reason why the EAD was not received, is that the Postal Service, FedEx, they do not deliver any of these secure documents if the person no longer lives at that address that was provided, even if the person set up one of those forwarding services. It is not going to happen to an EAD. It's going to go back to USCIS. Also, even if the person filed a change of address with USCIS, the EAD may not make it to the new address. So one of the proactive things to do is for the students to try to not move while this process is going on until they have their EAD in hand. Okay, lots to cover here, but hopefully, again, that this information is helpful. I very much appreciate the questions that you're giving me, because it allows me to help many of you. So by sending me questions that are of general interest, I am helping you, but you are also helping me help many others. So I am very grateful for that. Again, I hope you find this content beneficial. Don't forget to subscribe, and please continue to send me some of those beautiful questions. You are driving the conversation, and I thank you for it. Until next time.